So let's make this session informative and engaging. Today we have a special guest planned for you, and she's going to be presenting on elevating your efficiency with practical tools for time management. So this is all about time management. It'll be an interactive session, and you'll learn how to implement the Pomodoro Technique, scheduling margin, urgent, important grid to enhance your daily productivity. You will be strategically able to prioritize tasks and manage time with greater efficiency, and apply these methods in real-world scenarios to achieve measurable outcomes. Thank you, Kim. So that the SharePoint COP SharePoint is in the chat. So let me first introduce our speaker. Our speaker is Nagam Al-Samari, and Nagam is the CEO of MCAN Leadership Development. She's a certified Maxwell teacher, speaker, and trainer, and brings over 15 years of varied experience in education and training, serving in roles such as a teacher, principal, and training director. She brings a wealth of experience with the practical use of productivity tools and techniques she personally uses and has trained others to enhance their workday. Nagam's academic credentials include a BA, an MS, and an MA in administration and supervision, and she's currently pursuing a doctorate in curriculum and instruction. When do you sleep, Nagam? She's a Toastmasters International Speech Area Contest winner in 2021, and Nagam is dedicated to empowering others through servant leadership. Her work from mentoring with the National Society for Leadership and Success to organizing local Toastmasters Club. She reflects her commitment to nurturing leadership skills like productivity, organization, communication, and team empowerment in others. So without further ado, I'd like to hand this session over to Nagam. Nagam?
Thank you, Darren. This is why I actually use all these productivity tools because I have so much on my plate that I find myself needing some things to help me kind of go through everything. So thank you so much for the introduction. I did not realize how lengthy it is. So today, we're going to dive into some tools to help you hopefully manage your time and be able to become more productive. And the one thing that comes to mind when people think about productivity is, oh, yay, we're going to get a lot more things done. And that is not the case. When you are productive, it doesn't necessarily mean you're actually doing a lot of stuff. It just means you're doing things more effectively. Before we do that, I do want to start with an icebreaker. I know nobody likes those things, but I'd love to kind of get to know my audiences. And I would love to have you turn on your cameras, because this is a turn your camera on, turn your camera off kind of exercise. So go ahead, be brave, take a risk. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yay! I'm seeing a lot of folks' faces. Nice to meet you, everybody. It's great to see you. So this is going to be super quick. We're going to practice once, and then we're going to dive right into the other questions. So this is what you're going to do. You're not going to talk, just so you know. Yay! Woo! Be okay. Be comfortable with that. What you're going to do is I'm going to say a statement, and if the statement applies to you, you're going to keep your camera off, and if it doesn't, you're going to turn your camera off. Okay, it's going to be real quick. Ready? All right, here we go. I have traveled to more than 3 countries. Go. Wonderful. Oh. All right, awesome. All right, back on. Next one is, I have a hobby that I practice regularly. Oh man, I was hoping to see more of those. We need to get more hobbies. Okay, next one. My window doesn't want to move. All right, the next one is, I can play a musical instrument. Okay. All right, last question. Ready for it? I love to learn new technology or software tools. Okay. All right. We have a couple of tools that we're going to go through. And before we do that, we're going to actually start with a bonus tool. So first of all, my screen is invisible, so I can't see it. There we go. Here's my situation. I have been, as Darren had mentioned, I'm still in the education field. About more than 10 years ago, I think I was asked to step into the principal's role. And when I did, I was in a building that kind of had very little stability. There was a lot of issues. I spent my first year kind of just learning the processes. I wanted to see what's going on. And I noticed there's so many issues. Not that, anyone's at fault, but it's just the way it was. There were due dates were not being met. As the school principal, I wanted to get things done. So I set deadlines. They weren't being done. We had people working in silos. Everybody was doing their own thing. There was no collaborative effort whatsoever. There was no system. I wanted to learn the system, but I discovered there was no system in place. There was a cycle of cause and reaction. So people don't plan ahead. What happens is they wait for something to happen and then they address it. Something else happens and then they address it. And so you're left to unpredictability, which all caused lack of stability. Staff were in and out constantly. And so it left a really kind of a bad situation for our students, for our parents. So my very first year, I kind of just took it all in, tried to learn, ask questions, and learn from everybody that had been there before me. And my very second year, I started implementing some things. It took me a long time to get to a successful point, but this is what we did. First of all, I started a system. We needed a system of training, first of all, because I noticed there's a lot of individuals who lacked certain areas, so they needed to be trained. And I started training on that second year and never stopped until my last year as school principal because of the need for training. Not because of new people coming in. Now, in this building, I had 6 departments and other supporting staff, and they each did their own thing. They didn't work together, so we needed to actually enforce a collaborative effort, which means if I am department head number 1, yes, I'm still in charge of the projects that my department is working on. However, with much training and much mindset shifts, now the other department heads are there to actually work with you because now they're privy to what that department does. It took a lot of training and a lot of mind shift set. I got to say that again, because it's hard to change from I'm responsible for this is my job description to something else. We created manuals. Each department had no manuals, and so we spent so much time on recreating basically the wheel. So we needed to have those set in place. There were no checklists whatsoever in place, so we needed those to set in place. Basically, then this is my bonus tool. What we did was I enforced the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 principle, which means we focused our effort, 20% of the tasks that actually delivered, that worked, and 80% of the results. That's what we did. Instead of trying to do everything all at once, instead we looked at, all right, of all this stuff that we're doing, trying to accomplish and not having enough time and being burnt out, going home exhausted, what of those 20% of those things that actually delivered 80% of the result? That's the focus that we spent most of our energy on. This is what we're going to talk about today. These are the 3 tools. The Eisenhower matrix, which Darren mentioned, and I had put it down as the urgent, important grid. It's actually called the Eisenhower matrix. We're going to talk about scheduling margin in your schedule and the Pomodoro technique. So let's start with the Eisenhower matrix. And I wanted to let you know, folks, if you have any question at any time or any comment, please drop it in the chat at any time. But I'm going to go ahead because I want to make sure that I make your time and we use our time wisely. All righty. So if you're familiar with that, with the Eisenhower matrix, basically, you got a bunch of to-do lists. We all have those on paper or somewhere digitally. You have a long list of to-dos. how do you prioritize? A lot of folks I've talked to and met, everything is a priority. And John Maxwell says, if you're prioritizing everything, they're really not prioritizing anything. It really freezes you, and it's not allowing you to actually work effectively. So the Eisenhower matrix, the way you use it is to kind of reflect on that to-do list and break it down. And you put items in 4 different categories, and we're going to practice that. So if it goes in the to-do list or the do list, it means it's something that is urgent and important, and it needs your attention, and you have to do it. Now, you put it in the schedule area if it's something that can wait and you can plan ahead for it because it's not urgent. It's still important, but not urgent. If something is a non-important, urgent but not important, then you can delegate it to somebody else. And I know how tough this can be. And actually, delegation is one of the things that I had trained department heads on because it was one of those difficult tasks. And finally, delete. How many of you have actually deleted something before? It's that one of those things that is hard to do. So let's look at that matrix together. This is what it looks like when you put it in that grid or matrix. And it helps to look at your to-do list and figure out, all right, is it important and is it urgent? If it's important and urgent, then you put it in the do box. That's where it goes. And these are the things that you actually look at and do. If it's not important but urgent, then you delegate it to somebody else. If it's important but not urgent, then you can schedule it, put it on your calendar. And if it's not important and not urgent, then you can eliminate it altogether. And it is kind of hard to delete something because to a lot of things to us are really important. All right. So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like to invite you to, there we go. I'd like to invite you to actually tackle this. This is what I'm going to share with you in the chat in a second. What I'd like for you to do is kind of think about a couple of things. If you already have a to-do list, okay, take it out. If you have it on your calendar, on your planner, somewhere on a piece of paper, take that out. If you don't have it in front of you immediately, just think of some tasks that you have to do. And then of these tasks, I want you to try to organize them into those boxes. You ask yourself these questions. Is it important? Is it urgent? Then it goes in the do box. Is it not important but urgent? It goes in the delegate box. If it's important, not urgent, goes in the schedule box. And if it's not important and not urgent, then it goes in the delete box. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And I will put that sheet in the chat box. You can go ahead and open it. And what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and give ourselves 1 minute to do this, to try this exercise on your own. So you'll need your to-do list, or if you don't have one, come up with one. And in order for you to write on those boxes, you just double click inside and you should be able to write in them. Our last tool is the Pomodoro Technique. And basically, you give yourself 25 minutes of focused work time, and you follow it by a short break. And this is what I did. I started our Pomodoro clock right at the second Darren started speaking. And as you heard the bell, it ended. And so we took a break. Now, the break was for 2 minutes. It wasn't for 5 minutes. And we actually did some work during the break. So that wasn't a very good example. However, what you do in an actual Pomodoro technique is you give yourself a 5-minute pause to recharge, reset before your next Pomodoro, before your next 25 minutes. You have the capability of actually changing the time, 25 to 30 or so on. But the ideal time for focusing on a task and being more productive is actually 25 minutes. So I would keep it at that. And then you repeat your Pomodoro and then take a longer break after every 4 Pomodoros. Now, there are apps that actually do this automatically for you, or you can go on the web, and there's a Pomodoro clock, which I'm going to show you in a second. This actually also exists in your phone. I don't know about Androids, but if you're an iPhone user, you have something called Focus. Focus does exactly that. And you can create different focuses and tell them what you're doing, what your tasks are, what you're going to work on. So you can use that focus mode on your phone. So this is the Pomodoro clock or technique. And this is what it looks like. And it's pomafocus.io, and this will be shared with you later. And basically, it starts out with 25. You can tell it what task you're working on. You can add a task right here. So I'm going to add a task. Task number 2. I'm going to save it. And I'm going to start my Pomodoro start right here. It's going to ask you if you want to allow it to, notify you, because it does that little bit of a ring so you can hear it. I'm going to go ahead and pause. And your short break is right here. It's automatically set to 5 minutes. And you can take a long break here, which is 15 minutes. Now, these all can be changed by going into the setting, but I would say try out the 25, 5, and 15 first. Again, you start it out, you focus on something, and then you take 5-minute break, then you come back to it. So this is what I want us to do. And I had mentioned earlier that I use something called a Padlet. This is what Padlet looks like. I love this thing. What I want us to do is I'm going to set a short break right here for 2 minutes by going to the setting and just telling it my short break is 2 minutes. Okay. During this time, I would love for you to go in here and let me know if this has been useful to you, if any of these techniques have been useful to you. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat. And we're going to play a quick game in the end if we have some time. So I found this workshop useful. Yes or no, you can use the upvote or the downvote. You can leave a comment in here. I found it, the presenter easy to follow, understand. I know I was going quickly. I'm trying to save your time. And then this last question. So here is our timer. And then go ahead and leave your votes or comments and right on there. And this could be used as a, a technique as well in Padlet. I'm going to go ahead and use it myself. What I want us to do is we're going to kind of take a look at these 3 tools. And that's what the E, M, and P stand for. E is for the Eisenhower grid, the urgent, important grid. The M is for margin, and P is for Pomodoro technique. What I would like to do is to set some scenarios. And I want you to take a minute to think about, okay, I'm in this scenario. What's the best way? What's the best technique for me to use? Is there one question? No. Is there one way of, is there one answer? No. You can actually use multiple techniques or, either one of them, depending on the scenario. So the different scenarios, I'm going to actually start out by reading the scenario. And I would love for one of the audience members to tackle this on and kind of think. Then maybe just unmute yourself and come on with your video and tell us, what do you think would be right? And how would you handle the scenario? So let's go ahead and talk about the first scenario. The first one is, okay, here we go. You have just been handed 3 high priority projects, all with tight deadlines that overlap. You need to effectively manage your time to ensure all projects are completed without sacrificing quality. What do you think? Which one of these should be used?
In the chat, you want us to answer this, Megan?
And in the chat too, yes, as well. Thank you, Darren. Ooh, we've got some E's. Got a lot of E's. Yeah, absolutely. E and P. Ooh, interesting. And now, if you noticed, these tools, some of these tools actually complement each other. So you could be doing multiple of both. But yes, definitely start looking at what's important, what's urgent, start there and kind of focus on that. Ooh, we've got a P and an M. Gabriella, would you like to kind of explain that? I'm interested in hearing your thought process on this.
Sure. That's me. Okay. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so I thought that since you said that all of the tasks are equally important, that for me personally, the matrix would not be as important because you have to tackle all of those tasks. So I was thinking that most of all the Pomodoro method to make sure that you have enough time for all of them, and the and just to make sure that the what was the sorry the
to give yourself margin, like break
yeah,
time.
the margin. So yeah, and that's for the making sure that you can keep your sanity while you're focusing, because as we learned today, taking some breaks actually can improve the quality of the work that you're doing in the meantime. So that's my reasoning.
Thank you. Wow, I love it. And thank you, Munir, for putting in M equals margin. And Apapula, you have a question? I see a raised hand. Hope I said that right.
Yes. Yeah, you try to give you a 9/10. So my question really is on the Eisenhower matrix. Really, sometimes the challenge is not in prioritizing, but knowing what really is the criteria for what's important, what's urgent, and what's not. So I don't know if you could speak to that a bit to help. Like,
Yes, and that could look very different for everybody, right? We come from different fields and different industries, and whatever you're working on at the moment could, define what is urgent, what is important. I mean, one of the things, for example, that I did personally was we had about 20 meetings at the beginning of each school year that every staff had to attend, ranging between 30 minutes and 1 hour to an hour and a half, which killed our time. So we looked at, okay, what can be done in an email, for example, what can be done as a module viewed independently, and what can really need to be, what needs to be in place as a person and have this back and forth conversation and discussion. And that's how we decided what is important. So it really is different for between what you're doing at the time and what industry you're in. I mean, it could be like something like you've got a project that you're working on, and your boss comes in and says, "This is important. Deal with it," or work on it. What important level of importance? And somebody said this earlier. It's subjective. It's based on what it is you're working on. Who decides it's important? And a lot of time our bosses decide that, right? They tell us this needs to be done by a deadline, and take your deadline into consideration. Take the amount of tasks that need to be completed for one project to be done, and kind of factor them all in, and take a look. Is it really important? Can it be done today? Does it have to be done today? And then go from there. I mean, every meeting was important to us. Every person coming in the door was important, and I had to meet with them. That wasn't the case. And we had to make that mind shift of not everything is important. Some things can wait. I hope I answered that. And I have another question from Munir.
Yeah, well, actually, I would look at important depending on whether if it's work related, then there's a set of standards that you have to put for what's important that's agreed upon among our team, our Scrum team. And that comes, of course, with management too, depending on the impact of the problem. And that's how we're setting up the importance. On a person level, yes, I agree. It's always subjective. It's never objective. Like, for example, some people, sports are not important for them. Some people going for, reading external things are not important for them. So that, they can look at that as, yeah, well,
Yeah.
depending.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I mean, it depends too. Like reading emails is important to some people, right? But then can you read emails later on, unless they are marked urgently or something. And even though sometimes, it couldn't have been just regular email. We only have about 5 minutes left. I would love to, and I thank you so much for coming off your on mute and talking. If anyone else has any questions, I would love to answer in those last few minutes remaining. You've been such a great audience so far.
Can I have a question on that scenario at hand that we just had?
Yes.
You said those were 3 tasks. Are they in the same timeline? Are they in the same impact?
They are high priority projects.
What about the end dates?
With tight deadlines is what I said, that overlap, which basically come to close together.
Okay. Well, probably here going back to the different stakeholders and asking them.
Yeah.
That's to start with.
Yes, and how much time?
Yeah.
And how much time needs to be spent on each one needs to be taken into consideration.
Exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to give it back to Darren since we only have about 4 minutes left. First, I want to thank you all so much for participating and for your wonderful questions and your comments. And back to you, Darren.
All right. Thank you so much, Nagam. This was a really great session. Different for our COP members. We usually talk about more project management things, but this was good for us about managing our time. So we appreciate the insights that you shared today, Nagam. Thank you so much. One thing that really stood out to me was, I don't have a lot of white space. I don't. So scheduling white space, schedule white space in your calendar. You said it improves your self-awareness, your energy renewal, reserves contingencies, and unanticipated situations. So that's one of the things that I think I'm going to try and apply from this session today. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. A reminder that certified PMPs can obtain PDUs for attending our events. If you have ideas for trainings or events that you'd like to consider, please reach out to the COP admin. That's COP-PM-admin@sfu.ca. And thanks again, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you at the next event. Take care.